There was a prophecy recorded in a text called the Jinn scroll. It was lost a long time ago, but it said that in the battle between man and Jinn, one shall emerge more powerful than both, leading the world into a golden age.
The concept of jinn was something that predates Islam, that predates the Quran. You find literary elements in poems and in texts before Islam that mention or refer to jinn, or some sort of being that is not human. The epigraphic evidence before Islam does suggest that this is a concept that is deeply rooted in Arab pre-Islamic mythology. And call them whatever name you want to call them, different sorts of beings do happen to exist. My name is Tareq Ramadan, and I was born here in Michigan. I live in Taylor. I'm currently an instructor in Wayne State University's Department of Anthropology, and today I teach archaeology and anthropology courses. I recall my father telling me stories about Jinn, and when he grew up in Jordan, next to his house there was an ancient burial ground, an ancient cemetery that was probably thousands of years old. The main road to get to his school was beyond the cemetery. And of course he was extremely afraid because all the stories he had heard about Jinn living in this area and frightening people as they tried to cross the cemetery. When I went to Jordan myself, I was faced with the same sort of dilemma. I had to get somewhere, and there was this, this cemetery of ancient headstones on a small hill, literally connected almost to the edge of the house. I remember cousins of mine telling me, well, be careful because there's a 50-foot black jinn with yellow eyes that comes out. Most of us in this village have seen it, so be careful. That particular image was sort of ingrained in my mind up until today. It scared me. It scared me for years. I always saw it, I always pictured, I always imagined what it would look like if I ever encountered a jinn, that it would somehow maybe look something like that. I recall people from the village saying that they used to dig for gold there. Sometimes they would come across, as they were digging, they would come across a chicken or a snake, and that if you encountered one of these, you would be paralyzed, that the jinn would essentially possess you and take over your body. And people were extremely scared to dig in certain places because they thought that they would encounter these beings, these jinn, which took on multiple forms. There are inscriptions that are from the pre-Islamic era that reflect the fact that its inhabitants actually worshiped the jinn. The jinn were good gods to them. The term that they use is jinnah, which is probably close related to the word jinn. The 72nd chapter of the Quran is called Surat al-Jinn, the chapter of the jinn, and it goes on to tell us that the jinn happen to be made of a smokeless, almost poisonous wind and fire that is very different than humans, that the jinn were created before human beings. The jinn, of course, can do good, they can be pious. Some of them, according to the Quran, converted to Islam after hearing the Quran being recited, and others were in fact enemies to the Prophet at the early sort of stages. They had disdain and contempt for him. You do find the word jinn in the Quran in many of its various forms, related forms, 29 times. Some of the terms include things like janeen, which refers to the fetus. You have the word majnoon, which in colloquial linguistic context refers to somebody who is essentially crazy, but this term really is closely related to the word jinn and therefore has certain sort of etymological qualities rooted in the idea that the jinn have possessed these individuals, and really what you have is a possession of people by the jinn, and therefore you're majnoon. You are essentially overcome or possessed by the jinn. And one of the ways to sort of rectify the situation is to bring in men of religion to exorcise the jinn demon or spirit that has possessed the humans.
Three were created. Man, made of clay. Angels, made of light. And a third, made of fire, called the jinn. That's what's coming for you.
And I feel to think that we are alone, it's a tough stretch. We're human-centric. We like to think that the world revolves around us and that God is mostly concerned with just humans and essentially nothing else. Again, as a Muslim, it's part of the sort of the obligation, part of the mantra to accept that there is the existence of jinn.
There is more than one dimension in this world, and you will need to move between them in order to past the Jinnah.
I think it's incredibly done. I think it's absolutely professional. I think that it is done tastefully and looks exceptional. And that is my honest opinion. The movie's engaging. I smiled at the end. I'm excited to see this. Entertaining, thrilling, engaging, draws you in, action-packed. It makes you think about all the things that you've heard, some of the things that you may have experienced, and it sort of embodies all of those questions we have about, are we alone or not?